Hi, I'm Lisa Fletcher, and you're in the stream. Today, it's hard to change the world, but it's being done by kids who are brilliant, inspired, and passionate about creating a better place for all of us. Anousheh Hossain is here, filling in as digital producer, and she's checking out all your live feedback as it comes in. Anousheh, the accomplishments of these kids are monumental, and it sparked a terrific online discussion about what inspires greatness.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Our online community is having a really vibrant discussion over this issue, and they're talking about everything from the limits of traditional education to the importance of having really great mentors. So I'm going to be pulling up your tweets throughout the show. If you want to join our conversation at home, please tweet me using the hashtag AJStream.
And joining us here at the table is Aletta Margolis. She's the founder and executive director of the Center for Inspired Teaching. Aletta, thanks for being here.
Nice to be here.
So there are a lot of ways that you can join the stream. One of them is Google+. Our young, amazing scientists are using it to hang out with us from around the globe. And you can too. Just add us to your circles and join us in the stream.
Hi, I'm James Hansen. I'm a climate scientist. I'm concerned about the future that my grandchildren are going to receive from us, and I'm in the stream.
Bullies, delinquents, or just plain spoiled. That's how teens are often seen and portrayed by Western media. Think about how often you've seen a clip like this.
Don't get in my face. I will get in your face as long as I get in my face. Touch me. Get in my face. Get out of my face. Okay, stop it!
I need to look hotter than everyone else in my party, but this haircut looks like total crap.
I have to get out of here. Yeah, my hair, it's killing me. No, like, I'm gonna go murder that girl right now. I don't know what she did. I'm gonna go flip. I look like a military boy right now. This sick. Oh my God, I don't.
It'll grow back.
Juvenile delinquents. Terrorizing Bay Area businesses, recording it, then posting it online.
Now, compare that to kids from more than 100 countries, speaking 14 different languages, and all tackling real-world problems. It's not a reality show, but it is reality. Listen to the story of Sakiwa and Banke in Swaziland.
My father is a farmer. Like most Swazi subsistence farmers, because of drought and soil erosion, he does not produce enough food each year.
Because of severe food shortages, many families in Swaziland rely on food aid. Bonke and I believe his family's situation and that of many others here can change for the better. We decided to dedicate our time to trying to find a way of producing better yields for farmers. We were inspired by our science teacher, Mr. Stole, to find a solution.
Hydroponic farming is a method of growing produce without soil. This system can be considered a good option, but for poor farmers it is too expensive. We developed a unique simplified hydroponics method to grow vegetables using a nutrient solution made from matured chicken manure.
We caught up with Sakiwe and Banke at their school. Together, they won the Science in Action Prize at Google's 2012 Science Fair. We asked if they ever doubted their project and if they were surprised by winning such a prestigious award.
We did think that it might not work out as well as we thought it might, but we just had to be optimistic.
Yeah, I was really surprised and excited at the same time.
Entering the competition was like out of this world.
Two remarkable young scientists who couldn't be with us because of the time difference, but the teacher who worked with them, Titus Sitole, is with us, as are other young scientists who competed in Google's Science Fair, and Dr. Albert Yumin Lin. He is a research scientist and National Geographic explorer who judged the projects. Welcome everyone to the stream. So, Brittany Wenger, I want to start with you. You won the grand prize for an app that helps diagnose breast cancer. Explain your project to us in layman's terms.
All right, so what I did is I taught the computer how to diagnose breast cancer so it could determine whether breast masses are cancerous or not. And I did this because currently the least invasive test and the one that could lead to the earliest detection is so inconclusive that a lot of doctors can't use them. But using my program, they're about 99.1% accurate at diagnosing cancer. So I want to get this test back into hospitals, and that was the goal of my project.
Brittany, how much more effective is your test than the typical tests that are available right now?
Well, so my test is working with fine needle aspirates, and like I said, these tests cause the patient about the level of discomfort of a blood test. And especially in the United States, fine needle aspirates aren't really even used anymore because they are so inconclusive. There's no set standard for how inconclusive they were, but I've seen studies that have put the number as low as 60%, some have put it as high as 80%, but mine, again, is 99.1% sensitive to malignancy, which is a number that could mean the program is hospital ready. So it's pretty exciting.
It's amazing. So you basically developed a program for your computer that taught us how to detect patterns that were too complicated for programmers to know how to program in?
Yeah, so it's an artificial neural network. So it actually works by modeling the brain's neurons and their interconnections, which makes it completely independent of what coders know because it learns based on its own experiences and mistakes how to diagnose cancer, which is really exciting.
I want to pull in our online community here for a second. Brittany, we actually have a tweet directed at you saying, I just want to say to her, well done, well done. As a woman, I feel comforted by such innovations because we are winning. I also have another tweet here from Francois. He's saying, their inventions truly meet needs, unlike branded innovations that just aim at making profit and fuel competition. I want to pose this question to you. Melvin, would you agree that, many people might think that because you're a kid that maybe your invention wouldn't be as practical as they actually are?
Yes, I think it will be practical. In fact, I mean, it could be used in a lot of things, in CT scans and stuff. Just because I'm a kid, it doesn't prove that it can be used. Maybe okay, I don't have things to work with, but it still works.
Hey, Melvin, just so people have a sense of what you've done, your project was on 3D images. It won you a spot as a finalist. Let's take a look at a little bit about that.
The idea was to use persistence of vision. If an array of LEDs are spun in a circle and switched on and off accordingly, an image will form by illusion. Put some of these layers after each other and you have a three-dimensional display. Through my project, I constructed 3 working prototypes with different shapes. It may be hard to observe the 3D effect from your computer screen, but it really sticks out in reality. Your eyes can choose to focus on a layer you want without problems. Imagine what applications this concept could have in the future. It could be used in 3D modeling, in gaming, 3D telephony, in hospitals and many other applications that require a realistic volumetric display.
Melvin, your work looks really complex and quite fancy, actually. Where was your lab and what was your budget?
I did everything at home here. I think the budget was around 600 euros, something like that.
$600?
Yes, all from my savings.
Oh my gosh. Albert, you were one of the judges. You're a real-life Nat Geo explorer. What surprised you most about these projects?
Well, it was a huge honor just to even be in the room with all of these students that were going around creating innovations that 5 years ago you might have thought of as totally impossible. And then today when they're talking about them, it seems like they're going to change the future, for sure. So, the room of judges that included people from, the editor of Scientific America to a Nobel Prize winning chemist, to my fellow colleagues at National Geographic, all of us were blown away by the impact that any one of these given projects could have had on our future. And it gives a lot of hope, and gives us some direction for where to go.
I want to pick up on that theme of direction that you just hit upon and pull in our online community here for a second. I have a Facebook comment from Sadiq Odarico. He says, wisdom is no longer about age alone, but about humans given the right education and allowed the pleasure of an enabling environment. I also have a tweet here from Salma. She says, the education system is limited. Therefore, an individual's true intelligence is not necessarily reflected in his or her grades. I want to pose this question to you, Raghav. Would you agree that maybe traditional education in a way limits students?
I really do think so. I'm not saying that the current education system is flawed, but I would say that there's much more room for doing something better or improving it, updating it. Because the comment was, I think I agree with the comment very well. The fact that grades are not really the only standard that determine a student, which I think happens most of the time. But yes.
Hey, Raghav, you used light as one of the applications to recycle fuel. Can you kind of break down your discovery for us and tell us how it works and what you think the applications are?
Sure. So the reaction that I was working on, the idea is to attempt to use sunlight or manipulate sunlight as an energy source for organic chemistry reactions. So for this, I used a prototype of a reaction that's called deoxygenation. And one can understand this in the context of fuels in a very interesting way. Fuels are basically hydrocarbons that are not burnt or not oxidized. And when they're burnt, they're essentially being oxidized, and this reaction gives us so much energy. But by deoxygenation, the products, the oxidized products, can be made back into fuel again, and mostly is what you would need is sunlight as energy source. So in a way, you could have this recycling thing that could happen, which I think is an interesting application.
Alita, how do these kids get to where they are? Are they naturally gifted? Were they exposed to the right motivations and right people along the way? I mean, how do you put all the puzzle pieces together to get these incredible young human beings?
There are multiple paths to doing the exceptional work that these young people are doing. I think the question is, how do we structure schools? And the conversation already came up. Does the school experience help to encourage creativity, or might it actually do the opposite? The question I'm interested in is, how might we structure schools and the role of the teacher so that we build and fuel students' natural, innate intellectual curiosity and give them real, authentic problems to struggle with, to think about, starting from very young age all the way through high school and beyond, as opposed to envisioning school the way it too often is, which is a series of steps that teachers lead students through, where teachers provide information and tell the students what to do. We need to be asking students to grapple with tough problems, and then we'll support great scientists like the one we have here and develop many more.
We've got a teacher just like that with us. Titus Sitole, you taught the two Swazi students that we heard from earlier. Now look, you've got a rural classroom. These kids have to go 30 kilometers to get to your school. What's going on in your class that these young men were able to win this award? Unmute yourself, Titus.
Actually, it was hard work. They were very, very dedicated in their work. They were always here in time, like they have to come early every day for watering or for nurturing their project. So they were able to do that. Also, they were inspired, actually, by the conditions at their homes, especially Bonke's family, where he was practically seeing their people suffering, meaning they were growing crops without getting any harvest. So that inspired him to work even harder. Mainly what was happening in the project was not from the classroom, but from what they experienced in their life, especially Bonke's son.
You know, that is such an important point. Albert, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. You know, when we look at these kids, like the Swaziland scientists, who one has a father who's a subsistence farmer who couldn't get enough yield to feed the family and was on aid. Brittany's family and her friends have been touched by cancer. How much do these personal connections lead them to their great motivation and influence their ability?
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of it, right? In fact, every single one of the stories that was being told at the Google Science Fair had a personal side to it. You know, some kind of point in one's life when you get a moment of inspiration and you start walking down a path towards discovery. But I think the point of the Google Science Fair, I mean, it's about access to knowledge. It's about access to communication. It's about a larger global community. So when you look at people that are advancing their own curiosity today, you know, we're able to do it in a revolutionary way. I mean, all you really need is some kind of connectivity, and you can access thousands upon thousands of years of human knowledge, right? So what you're seeing now is that curiosity is everywhere. You know, it's in every single village, backyard, garage. It's part of us as humans. It's the access to knowledge that's changing, and that's why, you know, I think we're seeing these kinds of revolutionary advances.
I want to pull
things like what Brittany mentioned.
Yeah. I want to pull in our online community here for a second, which is totally picking up on the theme of access that you just hit upon. I have a tweet here from Louise. He says, surely a healthy combo is more likely. A naturally gifted mathematician is nothing without influence and motivation. I also have a tweet here from Stephanie. She says, straight A students equal highly driven students, but gifted students are not necessarily driven. In fact, they may not care at all about grades. I also have a video question here I want us all to listen to. Raghav, I actually want to pose this question to you. So let's all take a listen here.
Hi, I'm Alexa. I work in STEM programs at the American Association of University Women in Washington, D.C. I'd like to say congratulations to all the Google Science Fair winners. My question is, did you have a science or math teacher who was a mentor to you or who inspired you? And if so, what did they do in their classes that sparked your interest in science and technology?
So Raghav, I wanted to pose this question to you because your parents actually let you take 2 years off of school, 1 year off of school. How important was that in where you are today and your invention?
I think it's a mix of many different puzzle pieces. Of course, the 1 year that my parents let me stay at home, that was a huge important thing. But I think there are many other people as well. It's not just a single person and a single moment, but it was an accumulation of so many of them. I did, in fact, referring to the question that was asked, I did have a teacher once who was teaching chemistry for about 15 days, and I guess there was nothing too special or too different that he taught in class that made me think, but it was just the way he taught it, or maybe the charm of the subject was too obvious in what he said. So I guess that inspired me a lot. And yes, of course, the support that I received from school, from home, I think everything that just mixed up and has helped me so much.
You know, Aletta, would you say that it's more about putting passion into these students than putting thoughts into the students or telling them how to think?
I would say it's about nurturing the passion and the curiosity that's already within them, figuring out what's exciting to students and helping them build on that. We believe teachers should engage students in a wonder, experiment, learn cycle where they, again, you can do this with very young children and adults all the way through, where you offer them something interesting to wonder about, to experiment, to learn from the experiment, and then immediately to develop a new question. That's what scientists do. They experiment, they find out some new information, and then they develop a new and more refined question and continue experimenting. School shouldn't be a place where we once in a while get to think and create. That should be the norm in school.
So to all of our young scientists in the Google Hangout, I posed this question, but I want to start with Brittany. None of you is doing strictly theoretical work. How important is it to each of you that your work has a practical application? Brittany?
I think that's the main motivation behind my work. You were talking about people who, in my life, who had had cancer. At the time I started this project, my cousin had recently been diagnosed, so I saw the practical need to improve diagnostics. And I worked for over 2 years on my project, hundreds upon hundreds of hours, and I always had this goal and this vision that it was going to be helping real people someday and could save lives. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about science and why I love researching so much.
Melvin, does the practical aspect of your work drive you?
Yes, I guess so. I mean, I don't remember a time when I didn't love science and technology. It was always like that. It was something that I have been born with, actually, I guess. But for my project, I think it all started when I was studying chemistry. So I guess it's a bit linked to school.
Raghav, you know, our show has a community of many open source fans, and you're opposed to patents. Tell us why.
It was not really opposed to patents, but the idea that was behind that was the fact that if I would have something interesting, personally at least, if I would have something interesting, like say an interesting project on sunlight, then I would want to put it first on a scientific journal. Probably because of the fact that the idea is to get the scientific community excited about the entire thing, and because of the fact that it gives everybody in the world an opportunity to want to do more. I mean, this idea was a really small thing, but I'm sure the world filled with so many billions of people, they might have interesting applications that probably not many of us would think.
Hang on, a really small thing that ended up getting a planet, a minor planet, but a planet nonetheless, named after you, and the personal acclaim from various Nobel laureates. So you guys are all very humble, and it's knocking me out, quite frankly.
Actually, it's knocking out our online community as well. I have a tweet here from Michael who says, if this is the next generation, I think we might accomplish some amazing things. I also have a tweet here from Kimunya. He says, teaching provides information, education is a personal choice to learn, and inspiration drives learning. I want to pose this question to you, Brittany. Do you think that that's true, what our online community member just said, that it's really your choice how much you learn?
Definitely. I mean, I've been really intrigued by this personal research for a while, and I am completely consumed by it. There are points when I sleep 3 hours a night because I love what I'm doing. And I think that's the key to it. A lot of what I've had to learn has been really difficult, and it's made me think, and it's really challenged the way I see the world. And if I wasn't inspired to keep doing this, I would just go and watch TV or do something else. But because I see what a big difference this has, and I see that it can make a difference in the world, I mean, I think that's what drives all of us forward.
Titus, what's your advice to young scientists and explorers who might not have the resources of wealthier students? Unmute your mic, Titus.
Okay, yes, thank you. My advice would be actually to try and work with the people who has these resources. For example, you might not have a computer in your home, but the next homestead might have a computer. That's one resource that is scarce in Swaziland, for example. Try to network with those type of people as a young person, meaning associate yourself with people who might help you in your project, in whatsoever you have in mind or what you want to work with. If it wasn't for that, I don't think Bonke and Sakwe could have done their project, but they had to come to me and ask for information, ask for resources, ask to use my computer, to use my lab in order to do their research and so on. So it's to go out and find these resources and information.
Albert, one of the things that the Google Science Fair and the folks at Google emphasize is that not everybody is a straight A student. And a lot of times the young people with serious intellectual horsepower are very motivated and very creative, but they might not have that 4.0 GPA. Has that been your experience?
Sure. Well, yeah, I certainly see that. I think that when it comes to the great innovators of our world, it's not like they're confined by some structure that we can all understand. I mean, Albert Einstein dropped out of school because it just wasn't right for him. But he ended up changing the way that we understand our physical planet, right, in our universe. I think these students, each one of them has a really unique story. And for example, Melvin, I think that you described, when we were behind closed doors talking about your project in the judges' panel room, you described having to struggle to find electronic parts in your hometown. I mean, you'd have to go drive to another village to buy some transistors and things like this, right? So there's some personal motivation there that is driving you to try to find gadgets to put together so that you can try to innovate something new that doesn't necessarily fit into a regular structure of a classroom. At the same time, the classroom is really important, right? Because if you start to see that other people around you, if you start to build a community and an environment where learning and exploration and curiosity are nurtured, then it becomes easier to let these things flourish, right? I mean, if you're working in isolation, it's much more difficult. So I think there's benefits to both, right? I mean, I think the school system is really important. I mean, we should emphasize that's where a lot of inspiration begins, but at the same time cultivate a community around anybody that goes beyond school, that goes into our homes, that goes into our friendships, that amplifies this idea that curiosity is a good thing and that seeking knowledge is universal. It's great.
I want to pull in our online community here real quick. I have a tweet here from M. Hop. He says, I'm curious, what do the science kids want to be when they grow up? So, Raghav, I want to point this question to you. We have a few seconds left if you could answer that. What would you like to be when you grow up?
I would want to be a hardcore chemistry, biology research professor at an amazing university and doing really cool stuff.
I think you're well on your way. So listen, we want everybody to stay put. We're going to continue this conversation in our online post show, which is coming up next at stream.aljazeera.com. Now briefly, on Wednesday's program tomorrow, we're going to talk about anti-government protests in Argentina and why so many people are mobilizing against President Cristina Kirchner. Send us your comments on that. And in the meantime, go to stream.aljazeera.com and continue this great conversation with us and winners of the Google Science Fair. Welcome to the Stream's online post show. We are talking to winners and finalists of the Google Science Fair. We've got 3 of them with us in the Google Hangout. Brittany, I want to go back to you. You know, we got a tweet here from Tab Greeno, and he wants to know what your views are on testing, your learning style, and how much self-confidence affects scientific exploration.
Okay, so I think I've been very fortunate to have really good teachers and have really good classroom encounters. I mean, I have the type of teachers right now that I can go in and ask them random biology questions that might just pertain to my project and not class, and they'll entertain them. But I wish that there wasn't so much testing involved in school, because I do think that it creates this kind of stress and this kind of focus on getting the answers right for the test instead of long-term learning. So with that being said, though, I do think I've been very fortunate to be in a nurturing environment and to really have teachers that care more about the learning instead of just about the testing at the end of it.
Aletta, do you think Brittany's experience is a little bit unique?
No, I think it's absolutely true. That we certainly want to have accountability and make sure our students are learning, but when the tests look for recall and look for the ability to memorize and understand something in a very, very surface way, that tends to be what's prized, and long-term learning tends to be a nice extra, but it's not part of the norm. But if we change the way we assess students and we assess them, for instance, in a project-based manner, and say, invent something, solve a problem, figure something out at whatever level is appropriate for the student, then we have a very different kind of assessment, and we'll have a classroom environment that actually can promote creativity and intellectual curiosity.
Albert, what role does self-confidence play in scientific exploration?
Yeah, I think it has a big role in everything you do, right? I mean, if you're confident that your ideas are worth being pursued, then you'll expand your ability to actually stay curious, right? I mean, I think going back to the point about grades, you know, I look at the students that I have in my own programs that I bring into the field on scientific field explorations. It's not necessarily the ones that are testing the best. It's the ones that are, well, willing to take the biggest risks, actually. You know, the ones that are willing to ask the questions just because they're curious instead of not speaking up. And, you know, you never know where the answer is going to come from. You never know what the right question is until you land upon it. So, you know, the idea that grades can define intellectualism or intellectual capacity is not necessarily how it plays out in the real world. I think that the students that we see here in the Google Science Fair, each one of them, you know, their biggest quality is that they keep on asking questions, and that's what's, you know, what's driving them. And I think that's in large part due to their own confidence.
I think our online community is agreeing with you. I have a tweet here from Aperico who says, marketable skills most times don't come with the A-grade academic scores. I also have a tweet here from Tab Greeno who says, absolutely true. Einstein flunked out. Schools aren't necessarily set up to recognize anything other than regurgitation. So I think would you agree with that as a teacher? I mean,
it's not always that bad. Always true, but we need, what if we set up our schools to recognize curiosity and creativity and to value it as much as or more than knowledge acquisition? What would that be like? How many more young scientists and artists and mathematicians and historians and writers would we be nurturing in school instead of what's happening currently? There's certainly a place for memorization, but it's as a means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself.
And I just want to quickly say that.
I wanted to jump in.
Sure, go ahead, Albert.
Sorry, yeah, no, I just want to jump in there in that, you know, the things that we're facing today, the challenges that we're facing as a planet, and that we actually do need to solve, and that the challenges that will be taken on by our next generation of scientists and explorers and minds, they're happening at a much, you know, they're evolving at a much more rapid pace. So traditional education is really good at teaching critical thinking, you know, understanding how to break down a problem in a systematic way. But when we're tackling the challenges of the future, I mean, it's all about adaptivity and thinking outside the box. And so to build our next army of minds that's going to go out and help us steward our planet, you know, we really have to think about that creativity, you know, and emphasize that, because the challenges aren't defined, the ones that we're going to face, and they're going to come from all different angles, and we need to think about them from, you know, a very, very open-minded perspective.
Melvin, obviously you and your colleagues with you in the Google Hangout today and the other finalists of the Google Science Fair are exceptional. There's no question about that. But what advice do you give to other kids in terms of tapping into their inner genius, really striking that note within themselves to find and follow their passion?
I have this saying I made myself. I mean, you can download knowledge, but you can't download creativity. So basically, you can learn knowledge, but you have to find out creativity yourself. So basically, I tell them, okay, go to school, get the knowledge, but then go home and evolve your creativity yourself.
Aletta?
I would make the comment that these young people who've won these awards are exceptional, but creativity and adaptability and the ability to solve complex problems should not be treated like the purview of an elite few. We should educate all our students with the expectation that they have the capacity to solve complicated problems, to be critical thinkers, to be creative, and offer them multiple opportunities to develop that creativity in school as well as in other parts of their lives. If we do that in school, we'll have a lot more, just as Albert was talking about, we'll have a lot more future leaders with the skills that we need to solve complicated problems, to innovate, and to do very important things for our communities and our society.
And Titus, you're doing that in Swaziland. Talk a little bit about how the participation in the Google Science Fair has really caught on within your school and how many kids are already working towards next year.
Okay, thank you. Actually, the atmosphere in the school is unbelievable. You can just imagine. Currently, I'm having about 19 groups who are interested in me that I should mentor their project, and I can't take all. And I have asked all the science department teachers, which are 7 teachers in our science department, to try and take some of the projects from the students. The atmosphere is it's very high, meaning the spirit amongst the kids is high. And I want to just add something on what they said about creativity. I think also the background that you laid in the school, meaning in the classroom, contributes to the creativity of the child. Yes, the resources and maybe the infrastructure and so on could contribute, but also the approach that, like the teacher in the studio who have said that it also includes how are you teaching the kids, how the approach of teaching the kids could contribute in creativity of the child. In addition, yes, to the knowledge that he acquires. So I'm expecting more than 20 next year participants in Google Science Fair.
I'm going to go to our online community here for a second. I have a tweet from Nemo who says, indeed, super kids of the future. How do we tailor them to inspire other children? So I want to pose this to our inventors. What would your advice be for kids who might not be that interested in math and science? Brittany, I want to pose that question to you.
So I think that science is a really broad subject, and there are so many different sub-levels. And for me, I never thought that I would be at the point where I am today, creating something that could really help a lot of people. I just started out curious. I would literally just read about all types of science. I still do. So I think if somebody wants to get inspired by math and science, you just have to look around because it's everywhere. You can read about it. You can do other things. And the other thing about it is I actually started a science fair club at my school. And the biggest problem that I find with kids who want to do science fair is they don't know where to go because they don't feel like their idea is worthy or really going to change the world, so they just don't end up getting involved. But it's really important to realize that, I mean, those beginning experiments are so important and formative for you. I mean, I don't think the 3 of us would all say we didn't start out doing the projects we're doing today. My first project tested to see whether kids would like map, or not even maps, it was bullets or plain text on a website. So I think it's really important that kids aren't limited by fear of not doing something well. I think it's important just to go for it. And that's what I try to express to everybody is, you know, we're young, we get to fumble around, we get to find those passions, and we don't necessarily have to worry about the end product. We just need to enjoy the process.
Brittany, I cannot think of a better note to end this show on. Thank you to all of our guests, Aletta Margolis, Albert Lin, Titus Sitole, and of course, Brittany Wenger, Melvin Zammit, and Raghav Ramachandran. Thank you so much, and thanks to our online community. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. In the meantime, go to stream.aljazeera.com, check out tomorrow's show topic, and tweet us your thoughts and your questions on it. See ya.